it filled up faster than any other class at CNS Stanford. So within 3 minutes, it was like the enrollment was full. And so it's very, very like LLMs are extremely popular now in the Bay Area and among Stanford students. And so then the backstory here is that my last company got acquired about 3 years ago, and I was looking for my next thing to do, and I was not making very much progress because I had no debt. My life is too comfortable. I had no deadlines. I had no pressure. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up starting this accelerator program where I just tried to bring together the very best people that I could find, including Kazuki-san was like one of the people in our early cohorts of Inception, and just try to find people who are interested in generative AI and wanted to build things using generative AI, but still very early in their journey, right? And I mean, the main reason it did it was because I was looking for my next thing, and there wasn't really anything like this. There are programs like Y Combinator or Techstars or others, but like I wasn't going to join a program like that. I'm not going to give 7% of my company to just to join kind of some type of community, like founder community group, and so there wasn't that many programs that were like this. So we started one, and it's ended up being quite successful. So anyway, so that's like just a little bit about me, and then I can go through talk a little bit about Inception and what we're doing. It's a new type of accelerator model. This is the traditional accelerator model. Typically it's run by an investor like a VC firm, and they will in exchange for you joining the program, like they will take some percentage of your company, like 7% or 10% or even more, and then they'll give you some investment, but usually the investment is not really a good deal economically. It's not a good economic deal, but they try to make up for it by having in the program. And so the problem that I saw like with these type of programs, it's a problem that's called adverse selection, where basically those style of programs, the best people decide not to go, choose not to go, right? Because and so you're not getting a representative sample of founders. You're getting you're systematically excluding the top end and the very best people. And so we wanted to design a program where we avoided that problem altogether. So the model is very neat because we take no equity in the companies, and we don't charge the founders either, because we want it to be pure pure upside for everyone. We want it to be pure upside for everyone to join, especially the very best people. Right. And so we designed the program, and it's like a retreat. So we basically, and then we go some house for about 72 hours, like 3 days, and just getting people together who are all interested in starting companies. And we just, kind of work together. It's kind of like a hackathon, but the output is not just a project or a hack. It's the output is a full pitch deck, and that you deliver in front of a room full of investors. And in so the very first event we did, we had about 20 investors who showed up. And the most recent one we did, now we have 250 who came to our demo day, and actually 600 applied to get in, but we didn't let them in. So it's gotten quite a bit bigger now. And so the events that we do, they end in a demo day. And in fact, we have one that's the reason I'm flying out tomorrow is that we have one that starts this week, and it's going to be on July 11th to 14th. So it's happening this weekend. So I'm flying back to the US for that. Yeah, and then this accelerator program, I mean, especially for these types of people like serial entrepreneurs, or people who have particular type of specialized skill, or deeper experience, or kind of work in really hot areas. These traditional accelerator programs are not really a good fit for them, because like they have higher standards, right? And they're looking for things that where they the quality bar is kept really high. They're looking for opportunities that are like extremely early stage, where you can kind of meet co-founders. Like they don't want to join a company that's kind of already going. They're looking for opportunities like to be a founder, and and get in at the very earliest stage of a company. They're looking for they don't have a lot of time, so they don't want to waste a lot of time. They don't want to join a program that might not be good, that will take 3 months, and so the time is very precious to them, right? And you want to these type of people, they thrive in the highest pressure environments, right? And so this is how we intentionally design the program to be like this, to try to hit all of these points of like where we keep the bar extremely high for the people who get in. So we don't charge them any equity, but we focus on trying to get the very best people that we can. We focus on trying to it's co-founder matching and kind of ideation, extremely early stage, like pre-incorporation for companies. Is kind of at the point where I think I want to do my next startup, and then we find people that are like that, right? And then and we make the program, it's not 3 months, it's only 3 days long, because people are busy, and good people are busy, and they have other things to do. So we want to be respectful of their time, so we compress it down as short as possible. And then they thrive in high pressure environments, which is because when you're there and you're only there for 3 days, it's it's very intense. And because there's at the end of the event, we have a big demo day, and there's a whole big huge room of investors, and these are not no-name investors. We have all the top VCs come to our demo days now. So Sequoia is there, and Andreessen is there, and Kusla is there, and pretty much all the top VCs. They all like to come to our events because we have a great reputation for quality and quality founders, right? Yeah, and so you put it all together, and then we have been quite successful. This is some of the organizing team that we have, right? And then the retreat, this is kind of the type of thing we do from our retreat format. So it's like a hackathon. I mean, I always I love going to hackathons. There's many hackathons in the Bay Area and around. It's associated with schools. There's at Stanford they have one called Tree Hacks, and then at Berkeley they have one called Cal Hacks, and MIT I go Hack MIT. I go every year, and so I love that type of intense environment where it's the type of thing when you have a deadline, it's it forces you to focus on only that's what's important. And if you look at this is true in business, this is true in sports, this is true in many different areas. If you look at what separates people who are good from the people who are the next level great, all-star Hall of Fame, it's always how do they operate under the highest pressure, in the highest pressure environments where the game is on the line and it's the fourth quarter, and do they crumble under the pressure, or do they unlock some new store of energy that they didn't even know that they had, and perform the best when the spotlight is brightest. The people like that, those are when you encounter people like that, these are the type of people that you want to work with, and you know that they're going to likely to be successful. So and this is we do this as well. And so it's a very high pressure environment, which is intentional because you're looking for co-founders. It's when you're in a co-founder, actually finding a co-founder for your company, it's a lot like getting married. But in fact, you probably spend more time with your co-founder than you do your actual spouse. So these are and so you want to know how does people operate under pressure. I think the only way to really know that is to actually go through the experience with them, go through some type of experience where you are working on something real that is where there's real stakes on the line, where it's there's you can't, it's a deadline where you can't blow it off, and then you really get to see it, you really get to know people well, and that's the type of relationships that you want to have when you're looking for co-founders. And that's also where the deepest bonds are formed, where you kind of have that type of shared experience. So that's the way that we had designed it. It's been like a very, very highly successful program so far. The first event we did was in November 2022. We've done 11 of these cohorts so far. We had a total of 134 founders come through. And yeah, and we've had, I guess, over 40 companies have formed so far. Maybe have to update the number on this slide. So at least 22 of them have raised like a substantial amount of money from a top tier VCs. And if you can see some statistics about the type of people that have been through Inception, so it's 71% are actually serial entrepreneurs. These are people who have started companies in the past. And it's an average of about 13 years of professional experience. So these are not people that are fresh out of school or those kind of things. These are people that have a little bit more experience. Quite a few, like they have a PhD from one of the top schools like Stanford or MIT or Berkeley. I think the best teams are also the most diverse teams as well. And so right now, like of the founders that we have, they're 25% are women as well, and we're kind of working to try to increase that over time. Yeah, and we're very focused on just finding the very best people that we can, bringing them together, and then running these events where they get a chance to interact with each other and get a chance to work together, and then see. It's been quite successful in having companies come out of it. And because we really focus on the experience and making sure that it's a pure upside and like it's only good for the very best people, like our NPS, NPS from what kind of. Okay. Anyway, so like the NPS is like when you ask if you've ever gotten a survey where they ask you like from a 0 to 10. How likely are you to refer this product or this program to somebody else, a friend? And so if you say 9 or 10, that means you're a promoter. That means that you're kind of not only you are a fan of the service, but you actually refer other people to it, right? And so the best brands in the world, like Apple and Costco and American Express and these they typically have an NPS of about 40, which means about 40% of their customers will tell other people about it, right? So our NPS is 88. People who come through the program, they become super fans and and then they refer other people. And in fact, 77% of the founders that we've had were direct referrals from other founders who had been through the program before. So yeah, and basically, if you just bring together a bunch of amazing people who want to start companies, they end up starting companies, and because the people are good, then like those companies end up doing well, and like that's really the point and the focus, which is a really different model from most of the accelerator programs. Are more of a type of spray and pray type of approach where I will take a large group of people and I don't really know who's good or not, but I will kind of give them all some opportunities to compete and join, and then hopefully maybe one of them will be like do very well and become a unicorn, and then you get lucky. But I think like the issue with those programs is it ignores the problem of adverse selection. They're not getting, the best people don't want to join that type of program, because to make the economics work, they end up not giving a good economic deal to the founders, and they end up fundamentally just some fundamental misalignments between the people who are running the program and the people who are and the participants in the program. Yeah. So in any case, yeah. And so and then they say people say lots of nice things about us. We we translated the comments and stuff. Yeah. And this is like the type of stuff that we do. Yeah. And we've had some good companies that come through, including Glasp here as well. Yeah. And so yeah, anyway, that's just a little summary of like Inception Studio. これずっと英語で話したけど、わからないかもしれないですがね。まあ、やるうち。はい。
英語大丈夫そうですか？大丈夫ですか？大丈夫ですか？ Can you explain the cohort? まあいいか、さっきの。ちょっとさっきコホート最後出たんですけど、自分たち以外にもなんか面白い会社がいくつかあったので、なんかもしよければ。So can you explain the other cohort companies? Like Venture?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can. I'll talk about a handful of the companies that have been through Inception before, and the type of kind of interesting things that they're doing. So I mean, I think maybe we don't have all of them in the slides. Like we just have maybe a few. I can talk about a few. So there's Ventrilo. So they're basically doing like use say AI for like generative AI for like a software testing, right? And so the founder here is Andy Chow, and he's used to be the founder. He's a Stanford PhD. Used to be a founder of a company called Coverity. They sold that company for $350 million to Synopsys, and then he started his new company and they're focused on they use generative AI to help with the software testing and quality process. So if you've ever everything from I need to generate a test plan, and then actually executing those test plans. And much like a kind of a QA engineer would do, their vision is that in the future, every developer is going to have a kind of virtual QA agent that's going to be helping them to test their product, as they're developing the product. So they've done quite well, and they raised $10 million from Andreessen Horowitz. They've been around for a little bit, about a year or so today. Yeah, and so that's like they're doing quite well, right? I can talk about another great Inception company. They're not on the slide here, but they're called CoFrame. And this one, the founder was actually a two-time founder. He was a founder of Autograph, which is a unicorn company. And then he's a founder of another company that got acquired. He went to Stanford, but he was a dropout. He was a student at Stanford and then dropped out, and then started doing startups and startup companies. And so they were in our third cohort at Inception Studio, and the problem they're working on is using generative AI for like user interfaces. And so they use generative AI to generate like new variants of user interfaces and then test them automatically with users to find which ones work best. So for example, imagine you have a web page, and you often will do A/B testing on a web page where you will like create two different variants of it, and then you measure to see which one has a higher conversion. Right. And so they're using generative AI to do this automatically. So they will automatically generate different variants of your web page, including, the copy, like the text, the colors, the layout, like those type of things, automatically generate different variants of it, and then automatically do like A/B testing and with a reinforcement learning loop so that over time, like you can, as you're sleeping, your website is getting better and better and better, and like it's optimizing the conversion there. And so that's an example of like an application of like generative AI that they're using there. They raised $9 million from Khosla Ventures and Nat Friedman there. And so they were, and in fact, I was just talking with Josh today because I was just texting him today because he was he was a guest lecturer at my Stanford class about on this topic. So and then there's some other from the so Gondola, that's another interesting one that's applying something to the travel space, generative AI for the travel space. They're using generative AI agents to automatically book travel. So I think travel is a really tricky market to go into, but they have a very innovative approach to do that, right? And in fact, I started my own company out of Inception as well, called Redcoat. And so, not only started the accelerator, but then I also the customer of the accelerator because we started it's a cybersecurity company, and we help prevent against social engineering attacks. So if you ever receive messages from somebody that they pretend that they know you, and then they try to like get you to do something, like go to buy them gift cards or go to give up your 2FA code or invest in crypto or whatever. Like these are like there's a lot of these scams now, and in the past they were all done by humans. Now they use generative AI, and so the scams have gotten much worse because with generative AI they can make very, very highly crafted and highly targeted attacks against you that sound very perfectly fluent and real. And this is not only with a text and email, but this is also with voice and even video. So there's now cases where you may receive a phone call and, to the grandparents, and they say, oh, hi, grandma, I'm in jail. I need money for bail. And because I was driving and I hit somebody and I'm really scared. Please don't tell my parents, and I need money for the bail, right? And like these, and it's their voice, and you hear the voice on the call. Or there recently was a case where there was there was a call with a bank, and then they talked with the CFO or somebody who they thought was the CFO. They said, we need to wire $25 million. And then they hop on the Zoom call and say, yes, that's wire. It was not the CFO. It was a deep fake of the CFO. And they end up losing $25 million from the wire. So these are the type of attacks that are happening now that are powered by generative AI. And so we build, like at Renko, we build the defenses against these type of attacks to be able to detect when you have malicious content or scams or social engineering attacks. And we use generative AI for that. So we can actually use generative AI as a discriminator to automatically find and find these type of attacks. So that's and then actually we have like around 40 other companies as well that like I'm very happy to talk about. Many of them are B2B. We have some B2C as well, but I would say majority of them are B2B companies, and almost all of them are using something using generative AI. And that's just because generative AI is super, super hot right now. It's very, very, very popular. And there's a lot of things that weren't possible, 2 or 3 years ago that are now possible. And that I think that gets a lot of entrepreneurs excited about the opportunities.
Thanks.
Thank you for John. ジョンさんにはい、これそうしましたら、Q&A に移りたいなと思うんですけど、リアルタイムのトランス拡大コマンド T でコマンドじゃプラスでこれリアルタイムで入ってるんですけど、日本語に関してはトランスレーション入らないと思いますけど、英語に関しては入る。ちょっとすみません、テスト的なところもあるので、もし分からなければ、ちょっと見えなかったら、ちょっとうまくいかないかもしれないんですけど、はい、ちょっとはい、うまくやりながら、はい、やりたいと思います。はい。So yeah, let's move on to Q&A. So yeah, もし質問あれば後で手を挙げて、何でも日本語でも英語でも質問していただけたらと思うんですけど、その前に自分からちょっと何個か質問をできたらなと。So before accepting some questions from audience, I have some questions to you. So since you're here and you've been here in Japan for a while, so and I think you've come across many Japanese founders or founders based in Japan. And what's your impression in Japanese founders based in Japan or generative AI and so on? Can you share some thoughts? 多分日本のファウンダーにたくさん会われていると思うので、なんかそのあたりのジェネラティブ AI とかそのあたりのなってますね。どういうふうに見てて思ってるのかみたいなことをちょっとお聞きできたんです。
いや、もう先月、1ヶ月ぐらいで日本にいましたけど、いろんな人と出会ってて、so I've been here for a month now, and I kind of and met a lot of different people, kind of either startup founders or investors or people in government and in different areas, and so I think it's very interesting. definitely there's a lot of a huge amount of interest here in Japan around generative AI, just like there is worldwide. But I think that there's for a variety of reasons, there's a lot of people who are interested in starting companies, but they're not starting companies because I think some of the barriers there are there's not that much of a kind of community around founders as compared to what you see in the Silicon Valley. There are kind of small groups. I've actually went and visited a few places like kind of small accelerator programs and such, but it's kind of fragmented, and there's not kind of a larger a community there as much. And I think as well as investors in Japan seem to be very conservative, or compared to many of the ones in the Silicon Valley and the Bay Area. So many of the investors, they kind of come from a finance background instead of a entrepreneurship startup background. And so they're very focused on the numbers and revenue and returns and profits and those type of things, which is when you're in the very early stage, you don't really have a good story there. And so I think there's a little bit of a mismatch there. That being said, I talked to many investors who are desperate. They want to find more good companies to invest in. And so there's a large pent up demand. There's a lot of capital, a lot of money that they want to invest, but they feel like there's just not enough good companies to invest in. I guess the last thing, so I talked to actually quite a few Japanese kind of Japanese company unicorn founders of Japanese companies, and but ones that had founders that had become successful in Japan. I think there's definitely a lot of interest in generative AI, but there's a sense that this things happening in Japan are behind Silicon Valley. The cutting edge things are all happening in Silicon Valley, and they want to have a much better, tighter connection and more kind of information flow there, so they can understand what are the latest things happening in Silicon Valley. Because I think there's still a view that Japan, although there's a lot of people working in generative AI, they're just followers. They're not kind of being the leaders yet. And so that there's a lot of interest in what is happening in Silicon Valley in that area, and they kind of wanted to have that type of connection.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。ちなみにトランスレーション大丈夫そうですかね。見えますか？見えます？見えない。見えないです。なんとかもうちょっと大きくして。
Is there a flashlight?
大きくしすぎたら難しくなる。これでギリギリいけますか？すみません、ありがとうございます。But yeah, thank you for the YouTube video. 一応YouTube 動画撮ってるので後で上げるつもりでもあるので、はい、またリンク等をシェアさせていただきます。And also another question is, as a founder based in Japan, how can I, Inception Studio sounds great, looks fancy, and how can I join as a founder based in Japan? どうやってすごいいいコミュニティだと思うんですけど、日本にいるファウンダーがどうやったらジョインできるかっていうところとか、もし何かあれば。はい。
Yeah, so we've run these events in Silicon Valley every 6 weeks, and we've had some kind of international founders that have joined. They actually fly to Silicon Valley to join and participate in the events. Yeah, but kind of after my trip here, then we I've met a lot of people who are very interested in participating in this, and this is why so we're going to make a kind of Inception Japan edition as well. That's going to be where we're going to actually run some of these events, here in Japan for founders who are kind of interested in doing these type of things in Japan. Because I think it was the challenge there. If the community part is a big important part of the Inception as well. As you know, we have a very active community, some online groups, and we have we do meetups quite often, and things are much easier when you're part of a community because there's other people going through similar things. You can talk with them. you can kind of share thoughts and ideas, and even for basic things like, oh, I need a lawyer to help with patents or filing taxes or those type of things, or I need an office space. Can anyone help? Or even the things about like, hey, what's your experience with using this latest, model, like open source model that was released, and like how I'm running into this type of technical challenge, like how do I resolve it? Like those are so doing this in the context of a community, like it's kind of like a superpower. And like doing it, like already being a founder is very isolating already. So like it's having a great community there really helps you to succeed, and also kind of helps push people to like be better, because then they see other people that they know and they see them kind of doing well and succeeding, and then they think, okay, well, I better, I should moto gambaranakia, like that sort of thing. So and so I think that there's like this is like Inception is a global, like a worldwide program, but we want to set up a branch here in Japan as well, so that to support the kind of the Japanese like a founder ecosystem. So we're planning to do this soon. Like we may do the first event this fall, and so like that's our current plan. So then and then of course yes, we'll have the program here, and Japanese founders will be able to join, but you're also joining kind of a much larger community there as well. Like part of the larger Inception community, like the 134 founders that we already have.
Awesome. Thank you. ありがとうございます。インセプションジャパンの発足始めようとしていたりとか、あとはそうですね、結構面白いコミュニティでつながりとかもできるので、もし機会があれば、How can I apply?
Oh,
Go into?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you, I'm happy to share that we have a link on our website. There is a short form like to fill out, and then that's how you're gonna apply. So and you can find out a lot more information about it on the website, which I'm happy to share the link with everyone.
ありがとうございます。ではもしご質問等あれば手を挙げていただいて、何でも英語でも日本語でも構いませんので、はい、聞いていただければと思います。
どちらでもグラスプ実は使ってまして、
ありがとうございます。
サービスありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
So for John, I used to be working IBM as well.
Oh.
So yeah. So I have questions. So does Inception Studio accept the founder who already have co-founders? Since I'm starting my own startup and then I already have a co-founder. So
yeah, so the way that we got started was that we only took kind of individual founders and we helped them to find co-founders. Recently, we expanded a bit. So these are actually, if you already have a co-founder and an idea, you can still join. But like the focus of Inception is for companies at the extremely early stage. And so this is typically if you already have customers, you've already taken investments, then you're already too far along. Like this is focused on ones where you just want to try to get your company off the ground. And in some cases, you may already have a co-founder, and that's great. And you can kind of skip the co-founder matching part, but you can still participate in the retreats that we do. So yeah.
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。もし他にあれば、どうぞ。
Joe-san, thank you for today. My English is not good, but I try to speak English. So my question is, how do you manage your time? So I know you're a super busy man, and you have an acceleration program and then security company. So how do you manage time?
Are you busy?
Weekend.
I don't really I don't というか生成 AI をいっぱい使ってますね。それactually it's very interesting to see that there's when you kind of this new generation of founders and companies where they're fully embracing generative AI, not only for their products but for all aspects of their business. And it's amazing. Like, so there's a statistic that said, if you're for software developers, like if you are a software developer and you use the generative AI tools like GitHub Copilot or even ChatGPT or others, those developers who use those tools are 5 times as productive as the developers who don't. So that's a 5x. And by the way, that's that gap is only going to increase because right now, as you know, the tools are not great. I mean, there's a lot of improvements they can do, right? So that's a 5x. And I often see many founders are able to, it may be a 3 or 4 person company, but they're able to act like a 30 or 40 person company because they are like fully embracing generative AI tools. And so I think this is like a very important skill, like to be familiar with how to utilize these tools because it kind of gives you like a superpower. And then now you can kind of, if you know where the appropriate places to use it, you can use it in those type of places, and then you can be much more productive. That being said, like the tools right now there's so many of them are not great. If you and you may end up wasting time like trying to use them because like the output may not be good enough for you to use. And so just understanding what is the state of the art and how to use those tools becomes really important. So that's part of mine, and part of me. So like I am kind of fully embracing Gen AI to do these things. The other thing, to be honest with you, is that I learned this when I was at my last company, where it's like to grow and scale, you need to learn how to delegate. And so in each of these cases, like for my company, for Inception, also this class that I teach at Stanford, in each case we have there's an amazing team there that I fully trust that they can do the work, right? And so this is, I think, a big gap that I see between kind of early founders and ones that kind of have an experience of kind of in a growth stage company, is that you have to learn how to delegate effectively, right? And so you want to find people where you can fully trust them, that you don't need to micromanage them and you don't need to go and do the work yourself. And this is actually a really hard transition. It was a very hard transition for me personally. And then also, but once you do that, then that kind of unlocks a lot. Like many times when you're a founder, you'll hit some realization that you are the bottleneck. You are, because you don't have enough time, the company is being held back, right? And many founders, they're not actually able to make it through that because they care so much about the product and the company that they just can't let go of anything, and they can't delegate to anyone, right? And so I think this is in every case. So I teach a class at Stanford, right? Which is okay. That takes a lot of time, but if you at Stanford, the class I teach, it is 80% are as guest lectures, because it's great because the students are happy. They get to hear from top people at OpenAI and Google and startups and a great group of people. The guest lecturers are very happy because I say, hey, do you want to come and give a guest lecture at one of the top classes at Stanford? Everybody I don't care who you are, you will say yes. Everybody says yes, right? And I'm happy. I don't have to prepare the lectures, right? So it's ends up being win-win-win, right? And so in that case, in my cybersecurity company, I'm kind of operating more like a chairman, less because I have co-founders there. They're very strong that are kind of operate in handling all the operational role, right? And then on Inception, I think you saw the slide, we have an amazing team there that is it's not just me. There's amazing team there that is handling all these things. This is why I was able to come to Japan for a month, and guess what? The next Inception is happening and all of this. So I think it's the key there is that the actual key is delegation. And so if you learn how to delegate, then you're able to end up achieving a lot more.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, that resonated with me a lot. Yeah, I think. 他にplease.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask that, for example, if you actually did the homework, you have a idea, you have a business plan, etc., but you don't have a prototype because the prototype could be just way expensive to build.
Yeah.
Is it still? It's not only about Inception, but general kind of Silicon Valley investment field. Is it possible to still get the investment having that, or you still need to build some sort of a product? So you have to show that you actually invest your own money, your own something. For example, if we're talking about LLM, the LLM itself, the model might needs to be trained, and that would be very expensive, even for just to train it.
So to be honest, like LLM, like in Silicon Valley, and there's like generative AI and LLMs are so hot right now. You can get, even with just an idea, you can go and raise like very large amounts of money. And I'm sure you probably have seen some of these where all they have, it's like the company is about 4 weeks old. They just have like a memo, investment memo. They have no product, no tech, no code. They have a team and they have like a memo. They say, this is what we plan to do. And then they go and they raise like $100 million. This is a story of like, so Mistral did this recently. They were going to have they raised, it's some insane valuation and all this stuff. So everything is very, very hot right now. It is very possible to raise money, like assuming you have a good team and it's going after a big market and all this. Like that was true. Maybe it's slightly less true now. Maybe it's kind of because some investors got burned by something that was like very promising, but there's no real traction or market there, or the problem ends up being much harder than they expected. So they're a little bit they question a little bit more, but it's still if you're building in generative AI, it is so hot right now. It is as hot as it's ever been, and it still continues to be right now. If you're starting a company that is not generative AI, like if your domain name is not like .ai, then you're gonna have a lot of trouble raising money. This is the truth, right? And so even you have a great business and great customers and growth and everything, like they don't even want to talk to you unless you have an AI story. That's just how hot things are right now, right? And so now that being said, I think there's more important that you can raise money, because there's going to be many companies that will fundraise and start and be funded and will not go anywhere. They will fail. And you think, well, that's okay. Like I raised money. No. Like your time is worth more, because once you raise some money, then you are committed. You committed your life and your time to continue to work on this. And and it's maybe you have 2 years or 3 years of runway. That's like 2 or 3 years you could have worked on something that would have been much more likely to be successful. So your time is worth more than money. Just because investor is willing to give you money does not mean it's a good idea, especially in Silicon Valley and especially in an area where this is such a hot, it's a big bubble and stuff. And you can just say the words AI and make some kind of flashy looking demo, and then suddenly you're gonna investors are willing to give you money, right? Doesn't mean that you should spend your time on it, right? And I think that right now there's a big benefit to people who know how to build, because people who right now there's this generative AI, like even the people who are creating the models, like the work at OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or any of the other places, they don't even know what's possible. They don't know what these models are capable of. And so if you are able to build, then you have a big advantage, because you get to discover what these are good at and what they're not. And this is going to be a very important skill. And so there's a real benefit to, instead of reading about Gen AI or try to learn about it just from talking to people, actually trying to build something. Because then the people who try to build something, they're going to learn the most about where it works and where it doesn't, and then they're going to get far more insights than people who are just trying to read about it, right? And so right now it's a great time to build, and and I think in fact if you are a builder, if you're an engineer that can build things, you have a big advantage, and so you're much more likely to be one of the kind of winners in the future than the 98% of the companies that will like go out of business, in the next few years.
Thank you. And by the way, I got a Glasp.ai for that. And also, I can't share the name, but I know a company that raised tens of millions of dollars at billions of valuation, but no product, no traction, and so that's crazy. But thank you.
2 or 3 more questions.
あと2、3個ぐらい。
あとは個別で。
あとは個別で、はい、ネットワーキングの時に。
じゃあ、
どうぞ。
Thank you, Johnson. Thank you for your sharing your information. It's been a while. So, Kyoto. Yes. So my question is, do you have some criteria for application? In other words, what do you expect for Japanese founders in this program?
Yeah. So basically, when the way that we do the admissions at Inception is that so first we look for kind of three criteria. Number one is that you should be impressive in some way, like because we're bringing together like people that are quite accomplished and we want to be successful, and so we want the people who are there like to actually. Oh, okay. Like you've done something like impressive. Like it could be that you worked at a top, like a somewhere where there's like a top, something in generative AI. Maybe you started a company in the past. Maybe you went to you worked at an impressive, lab or school. Maybe you had done something else impressive in your life. I think we've had quite a few people like through Inception that are. They're actually like really impressive people, even in non-technical areas or non-entrepreneurship areas, right? And so we look. There has to be kind of at least one thing that says, okay, this person looks like they're impressive, right? And then what we do is we do one-on-one interviews, and we really get to kind of know the people to say like, what is your motivation behind starting the company? Like, do you really want to start a company right now? Like, why? Why do you want to start a company right now? And if the answer is something like, well, generative AI is super hot right now and I just want to get rich, then like that's probably not a good fit, honestly, because to make a successful company takes 10 years. And there will be a downturn that's happening, at some point, maybe in a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, where it's going to become really hard to kind of be to be running a company. And if you don't have the perseverance and grit to really want to solve the problem, you're just going to give up. Like if you're just motivated entirely by I want to get rich and get money, right? And so we want to understand the motivation behind it and also figure out how people are serious. Like there's a lot of these we call them in the Bay Area, call them entrepreneurs. They kind of like say they want to start a company and they're kind of doing some things to start a company, but they're never going to be successful. Like they're never going to they're working in a job and they're never going to quit their job, because they have a family that they have to support, or they have a visa issue, or they have they're not kind of fully committed. And so we try to vet for that to say, oh, are you actually ready to start a company right now? And a big part of that, sometimes you find people that the resume and the experience is very impressive. And then when you talk with them, but they kind of already they're not hungry anymore. Like they don't want to they want to start a business, but they don't want to work very hard. And they only want to spend 10 hours a week. And they don't, that's not the road to a successful business. And so, I mean, that may be fine. It may be fine. Like if that's their goal is to, they want to prioritize things outside of, the family or friends or, whatever, right? Like that's hobbies, those type of things. That's great. That's fine. But that's not really a good match for the type of group that we have. We're looking for people who they want to start the companies that are going to compete with Google or compete with, Meta or compete with, OpenAI or those type of that type of ambition. And those are the type of people that we're looking for. And sometimes even if somebody had a lot of accomplishments in the past, sometimes that means they don't have that fire anymore, and so they may look impressive, but they're not actually a good fit. And then the third criteria is that we do a lot of work to kind of curate it. So even if you find people that are great, that like impressive and ready to start a company, they also need to fit with the other people that we have, right? So if we may find somebody and they really want to do something in robotics, and we don't have enough other people that are interested in robotics, then like it's not really a good fit. So like they end up like not joining as well. So like this is where, and the way that we figure this out is mostly via just a one-on-one interviews. So we just do like a 30-minute interviews with people to then to like really understand like who they are and like what's their motivation and those kind of things, because it's much more kind of a hand curated group. There's only had about 100 people, so far. We're not trying to scale this like to be like, here's a program with thousands or tens of thousands of founders. I think that's that's not our style. There's many other programs that are like that'll be like, come join, and like there's gonna be 1,000 founders in the program, right? We're just looking for we're trying to do ones where like we just focus on quality, and just like we want to have a good reputation for quality. And that's why we kind of spend a lot of time with each founder to then understand their motivations and whether they might be a good fit or not for the community. And this is another benefit of why we're a nonprofit, because we don't have a pressure to blitz scale. Like let's do like have thousands and thousands of founders come through. That being said, I think like when I visit here in Japan, there's like a lot of extremely talented people here and people who actually are ambitious. But I lived in Japan as well. I know that there are a variety of reasons, cultural and otherwise, that make it difficult for even people who have the talent and have the ambition to actually go and start the company, which is why I'm personally passionate about like trying to enable more of those people to be successful.
Thank you. 他に大丈夫です。どうぞ。
Thank you for talking. I think it's AI and the Web3 is very separated. But do you think have you ever seen any interesting product with Web3 kind of which is able to mix together Web3 and AI?
I haven't because honestly, the ones that I have seen so far, and I haven't looked that much of them, but there's most of the ones I see so far, they're kind of like scams. It's not real. It's like there's not, they just said, they're kind of like, oh, Web3 is hot. Web3 is hot and AI is hot. Let's do like Web3 plus AI, and like we're gonna make $1 billion. Like so many of the things I see are kind of like of that type of flavor. So far, I haven't seen that many that kind of have success, that seem like they're going to be successful so far. But like if any of you guys are kind of interested in that area, I'd definitely be interested to hear your thoughts, and like if you have any ideas of like things that might be a good match between them.
Thank you.
最後に何かクイックで質問ある方いれば、いきますか。どうぞ。
Hi, James. Thank you so much for your presentation. Do you see any difference between going to the MBA and going to this acceleration program? Because you teach like classes the university, right? So I just like to see any differences between.
I would not recommend the MBA program. Sorry for anybody who spent their time with the MBA on getting an MBA. But to be honest, that there's, often kind of like people go to MBA, the MBA program, it'll be kind of more for like, hey, I'm going to be a consultant. I'm going to work at like one of the large consulting firms or those kind of things. Maybe people feel like it'll do it. The actual true benefit of an MBA program, whether it's at Stanford or Harvard or MIT or any others, is the network of people that you're connected to at that point, because Stanford network is very strong. And so you join this Stanford MBA, you're not going to actually learn much of anything that is useful there. You will be in a class of people and a group of people that are like quite likely to be successful, and you get to know them, and now you have a connection and like alumni network and those type of things. That is actually the true value of like the MBA program. Honestly, right? Like that's the honest truth there, right? And so I think there's some people that are like, hey, I'm technical, I want to learn more about business, let me join the MBA program. I think far better than that is to actually get practical experience. They call it like a sweat MBA. Yeah, so it's actually you through your own experience of starting a company, like maybe growing and scaling a company, practical experience that is far more valuable than like what you're going to learn in a classroom, like in an MBA program. To be honest, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, John. And how can we connect you? Is it on LinkedIn, Twitter, email? What's the best way to?
Yeah, let's see. If we go back, let's see. My, go back this one. Let's see. Maybe yeah. If anyone wants to, if anyone's interested to connect, I mean, you can. So I'm on LinkedIn. I have Line as well, so like, feel free to connect online. You can scan my QR codes. I have my email here as well. That you can feel free to email me. And I have like when I came to Japan, I bought like 500 meishi. 500万円も買ったけど、なんかもう半分ぐらいがなんかなくなったけど、アメリカでもあまり名刺を使わないんですね。日本ではなんかeverybody is like exchanging the business cards and stuff, right? So I have a big stack of business cards here, and so if anybody wants a business card, I'm happy to exchange it with you as well. Or we can connect on, LinkedIn, online, on email. Any of those is good for me. So.
Thank you, John, for joining today. ジョーさんにありがとうございました。それでは、これから
10時半です。
10時半完全に撤収で、それまでネットワーキングをできたらなと思いました。一応後ろに今回サイバーエージェントさんの協賛ということで大変ありがたいことにフードと飲み物をご提供いただいたのでご自由に食べ飲みしながらつながっていただけたらなと思います。かなり参加者の方々でも面白い方々いると思うので、なんかこの際につながっていい機会になればなと思います。はい、ありがとうございました。じゃあもう。
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 意外とこれワークしましたね。
よかったです。一応。
大丈夫でしたこれ？
集合写真。